Hi everyone, I'm Daniel, and welcome back to this series taking a look at the event cards that get clues in Arkham Horror the card game. Last time we tackled the Guardian class, and today it's time to move on to Survivor. The thesis for the Guardian class was that no matter what archetype you're playing, there's a clue event that makes sense for you. Does that hold true for Survivors? Well, kind of yes, kind of no. To explain why the Survivor class is different, we need to go back and talk about clue-getting events in the first place. Again. Remember that in Guardian, there just aren't any ways to investigate on assets. And there's just one event that investigates itself, guided by faith, and it's brand new. This all might change with the Drowned City, but for now, Guardians use events to get clues in ways that have nothing to do with the investigate action. In Survivor, that's just not the case. They have several investigation tools, key rings, compasses, and lanterns, as well as other assets to help out, like newspapers, matchboxes, and ice picks. That isn't to say that survivors are particularly good at investigating. The vast majority of survivor investigators have an intellect value of 2. So it's no wonder that the designers took a different approach with clue events, which, unlike Guardians, modify the investigation action and in many cases are used in conjunction with the aforementioned assets. Let's take a look. This is the great granddaddy of all survivor archetypes, Failing Forward. Look What I Found is still the best example of the power of this archetype, turning an investigate action which might have only discovered a single clue upon success into 2 clues instead upon failure sets a very high bar for efficiency. Failing by 2 or less is not a difficult thing to do on purpose in this game. A basic investigate on a 2 shroud location with Look What I Found in hand guarantees at least 1 clue every time, since it is impossible to fail by more than the test's difficulty level. And because most survivors have only 2 intellect, failure is extremely probable, netting you the extra clue. At higher shroud locations, Look What I Found can be comboed with cards that reduce the difficulty of the test, such as Old Keyring in class. Now clue discovery at anything up to a shroud of 4 is guaranteed. The level 2 version is absurdly powerful. Failing by 3 opens up nearly every location on the map to your shenanigans, and clue discovery can be from among connecting locations as well. Absolutely every survivor can get up to these tricks with no other synergy, and recurring Look What I Found itself can make a massive dent in the total number of clues your team needs. The Scarlet Keys expansion pushed the idea of reducing the difficulty of a test to 0 to new heights. While Look What I Found rewards you for reducing the shroud to 2 or 3 with the upgrade to make it playable in more locations, Shed a Light asks you to reduce it just a little bit more to get an explosive payoff automatically. 2 clues from your current location, and a third from anywhere on the map. There's not much to be said here, even though it was relatively easier for investigators like Daryl and Stella to pull this off. There were enough tools released for anyone to do this too, and as such, Shed a Light landed on the taboo list, chained for plus 2 XP. Winging It, released in the Forgotten Age, combines a few of the survivor archetypes together. There is a little bit of the difficulty reduction going on, but also benefits for getting it into your discard pile. I like this card in solo quite a bit because you're not unhappy to just play the card normally for 1 clue, and then sometime later when you hit a 2 clue location, you can reap the full rewards. But for higher player counts, you can get a lot of value if you're discarding Winging It for other reasons. Think Wendy, Ashcan Pete, and Patrice. I suspect we'll get a level 2 version in the Drowned City, since George Barnaby also has a lot of discard synergy. And speaking of discard pile synergy, Tudus Discovery arrived in the Dream Eaters and cares about how many copies there are in your discard pile already. Unlike Winging It, this is the only archetype it plays into. In fact, you're gonna have to pass an honest investigate test using the card. It's not impossible to do in Survivor. A whole other part of the card pool lets you make sure you do pass, but this card wouldn't be out of place in another class too. Since I don't have too much to say about this card, let me just remark that while this series is focusing on archetypes and cards unique to the class we're focusing on, certainly you're supposed to play these cards if you're an off-class survivor. Maybe for Tudus Discovery is worth a look in Min or Mandy. Maybe not. And that's the end of the cards that modify investigate actions in some way. The final 3 cards feel more like the Guardian cards, in that they're discovering clues through some totally different effect. Here's Belly of the Beast from the Circle Undone. It's one such card. You get a clue for evading. It's here for Rita, but maybe also Silas and Wendy. Similar to Evidence, I hope we one day get an upgrade that discovers 2 clues instead of 1. But as it is, I think this card is pretty playable. Burn After Reading is certainly a card that says Exile on it. That's a survivor archetype for sure, and if you want Burn After Reading back, you could purchase Deja Vu. Or just do what everyone else seems to do, wait until the final scenario of a campaign, and ignore all the downsides. We don't have an Exile survivor yet, so no particular investigator recommendations. You can use this with anyone. Finally, Nature of the Beast. This one came from the Scarlet Keys. If you consider Dilemma as a deck archetype, I guess this goes into that bucket, but it's really more a card that leans into the idea that survivors don't care too much about encounter cards, as they are very resilient to the effects of most treacheries. Actually, anyone can draw the encounter card, and the free clue from anywhere on the map seems like a nice trade that can go to anyone as well. The faster you can draw this card, the better, so this has a good home in Patrice. And that's it, a relatively short list. I'll close by saying that while basically everyone, no matter what their role is, can play Look What I Found, if your role on the team is to get more than just a few clues, you can load up on a lot of these events since they work particularly well together. You can have both Look What I Found and Shed a Light in the same deck. Again, for Survivor, clue events are not really a replacement for investigation, but a supplement or modification thereof. If you do get a treachery that blocks investigation entirely, you might just need to break down that locked door, or investigate a different location and grab the clues remotely with Shed a Light or the upgraded Look What I Found. It'll all work out in the end, and that is the magic of Survivor. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.